Hi, this is Christy with Guidepost to Wellness. Welcome back for those of you that are returning to my channel, and welcome to any new users out there. For those of you that have watched some of my videos on my channel before, you know I like to do a lot of them outside. Well, that's what today's topic is actually about, is about the health benefits of being outside, being outdoors. And there's a theory that's been put out there, and I think I've mentioned this in a couple of my blog posts, and it's called the biophilia hypothesis. And it basically suggests that there's an innate affiliation of human beings with other living organisms, both plants and animals, and just a bond with nature in general. And so there was a group of researchers, and they did a composite analysis of global data of over more than 290 million people. It doesn't get much better than that when you're looking for a sample size. And it was over 140 different studies from 20 different countries. And they accessed whether or not people had access to green spaces and how that affected their health. And they found out that the folks that had the access to green spaces, that were the closest to green spaces, now check this out, closest to green spaces, had reduced risk of type 2 diabetes, reduced cardiovascular disease, reduced risk of premature death, reduced risk of preterm birth. They had increased sleep duration, and if you watched any of my other videos, you know that sleep deprivation is definitely an issue. And they had reduced diastolic blood pressure, heart rate, and salivary cortisol. So that's important because cortisol is the stress hormone, and for those of you that have watched my stress presentations, you know that that can have a big impact on the body. They found in the study that, in various studies, that being outdoors has the ability to increase your natural killer cells. And what's important about this, I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, is those natural killer NK cells fend off both tumors for cancer expression and viruses. So this could be another important time of year to make sure you're getting outside. A study in Denmark showed that people were 42% more stressed if they lived more than half a mile from a green space. And truly, a green space doesn't have to be anything fancy. As you can see, I'm taking my lunch break from my full-time job, and I'm sitting in the grass underneath a tree, and this is definitely would meet the criteria of having some green space. Studies also show that people live longer. The folks that live in the greenest areas have the reduced risk of mortality from all causes and the lowest prevalence of chronic disease. So there's something called forest bathing in Japan. I thought this was pretty interesting when I first read about it. And it's not actually taking a shower in the woods, but it's just bathing yourself in the being outdoors. So in their studies, they've been doing this for a very long time, again, show relieve stress, lower blood levels of cortisol, improved immune function, elevated white blood counts, these NK cells and things like that, were increased for up to 30 days after being outdoors. So that's tremendous. ADHD, improved focus. They found studies with children with attention deficit types of disorders would have improved concentration after having spent some time outside. Even having an office window, I mean, I know for folks how coveted is the office window. Thankfully, I've been with this company for a long time, so I've managed to always make sure that I've got an office window. That can help with productivity and concentration, even just taking the break and looking outside. Helps with problem solving. And then if you can incorporate other things like the exercise, being outdoors, gardening, that can improve your overall eating. But just the forest bathing studies in Japan, which have been going on for years, corroborates the other studies that I mentioned. And one of the things too is that there is a phrase that's been coined for children that's called nature deficit disorder. Studies have found recently that children between the ages of 8 and 18 spend more than 6 hours each day plugged into something electronic. I think that's pretty conservative. A study in 2002 which was obviously several years ago, and technology's only gotten to be an increased part of our life with homeschooling and remote schooling and things like that. They found that an 8-year-old kid could identify Pokemon characters better than they could natural plants and animals that were growing in their neighborhood. I've heard of stories about kids that had no idea what vegetables look like, what a tomato looked like, different things like that. And that can lead to an increased risk of developing a chronic disease. And so I think those are some of the important takeaways. Now, one of the things that's really kind of interesting is that the doctors don't know exactly why being outdoors helps. They've got some theories, but it definitely does. Some of the theories about why is even just being outdoors, you're breathing better air, depending on, I would say in most places, the air quality outdoors is going to be better than the air quality indoors. Especially when things are closed up, like in office buildings, or if it's wintertime or summertime with the air conditioning on, the air quality inside can have 10 times as much pollution as the outdoor air. It could be vitamin D, even 10 to 15 minutes unprotected each day, even just on small amounts like the backs of your hands, can help with vitamin D. And studies are showing that vitamin D has an incredible role in the body and for overall health and wellness and immunity. It can help with seasonal affective disorder. I know for a fact that if I lived any further north than what I do and had any shorter days than in the wintertime, I would absolutely have SAD. I can feel it when the time changes, when it starts getting dark early. I just want to go to bed early. I could definitely feel that. So getting outdoors can help counteract that. Exercise outdoors can be a double benefit, gardening, and it can be very social. Another thing that I'll talk about in a future video at some point is this concept of grounding, that we have electrical charges throughout, and by being around so much electronic media, we can get EMF, radiation, low-level type of radiation, and by being outdoors and literally in skin-to-earth contact. I walk around barefoot a lot outside. Right now I'm not barefoot, but parts of my legs are touching, my hands are touching, so I'm getting that grounding effect. There are actually doctors now that are prescribing outdoor therapy. You've got Park RX America, that was created by Dr. Robert Czar, who's a pediatrician in the DC area. Healthy Parks, Healthy People, Walk with Docs are available in certain areas. And I'll be putting links for all of those down below. And this is absolutely something that I work with my clients on, is trying to figure out what can they do to increase their outdoor time, even if they're not an outdoor person. I know not everybody's into the camping and the fishing and the boating and things like I do, but still being outside and going to a botanical park, going to a park that you can just walk in, putting a blanket down and reading a book outside. Those are all absolutely wonderful methods that don't require you to be quite as gung-ho as I am. So there are simple ways to do your own nature prescription. And that simple thing can be exercising outdoors. I mean, even if you're doing yoga or something of that nature, just take it outside, and you can get the extra benefit of being outside and doing the exercise. Just taking a walk outside is a great way to add in extra movement and steps. Eat outside. I know during the summertime that is a more popular type of thing to do, to eat outside. So eat on the patio, or if you've got a deck or an outdoor area, eat outside there. For some people, it might be right to think about investing in a pet that needs exercise outdoors, like a dog, that you need to take them for walks for their optimal health. That'll get you outside and get you moving as well. But that's not for everybody, so I'm definitely not advocating for someone who doesn't want a pet to get one. I think that's a huge responsibility. You you can see how I feel about pets by watching the video that I put about having a pet, and you can see the picture of one of my cats, Chico, there I used as my thumbnail. But I definitely, for me, I know that animals are an important part of my life, but maybe not everybody. And what you can do, especially in the winter months, is you can invest in plants or some type of indoor garden. I know aero gardens may not be as popular as they once were, but I think those are a great alternative. Even just some little easy to grow herbs in a pot. There are plenty of house plants out there that are hard to kill. But if you do have a pet, I would encourage you to make sure that you research what house plants, because many of them are actually toxic. And if you have a house pet, like a cat especially, they may want to chew on a plant, and it can be very, very toxic to them. But the same goes for dogs. There are plants that are toxic for dogs as well. And I've talked about this in many different times, limiting your screen time. I know, ironic as she says while she's making a YouTube video, she's telling you to limit your screen time, but it's true. And even if you are going to spend some time with your technology, then take it outside. Sit outside if you're going to be checking your emails, or if you're going to be watching a YouTube video by your favorite health coach. But take it outside. So I'm going to put a lot of great links down below. I think the study information is fascinating. So just dip your toe in. Start easy. If you are a city slicker, then just find a local park or something like that, or invest in a no-kill, hard to kill houseplants, and start getting those benefits from being outdoors, because you can't deny when you're doing research on over 290 million people and you see that the positive effects of increasing longevity and improving overall health markers, that's pretty astounding. And it's not a hard thing to write yourself an easy prescription. So take care, be well, and get outside.